Hi there, and thanks for returning back to this series of tutorials. So, working with bioinformatics tools can sometimes be challenging, especially in installing these tools. Sometimes you can get tools that conflict with other tools that you already have installed within your computer. And this sometimes is often due to conflicts in version numbers and dependencies and things like that. That is why before we proceed any further into these tutorials, I want to show you how to carefully install bioinformatics tools to avoid any possibility of potential conflicts in terms of dependencies as well as versioning. Now, throughout the videos, we will be working with Conda both as our tool installation manager as well as a tool to help us create working environments. Now, creating working environments is very important for bioinformatics because it helps you separate the tools you need for a particular analysis and helps you avoid any conflicts in terms of dependencies. So straight away, let's see how to install Conda. Now, installing Conda is pretty much simple and straightforward. What you need to do is to head over to your favorite browser and just type in Conda install. In your initial search, you will find multiple documentations, and what we really want is the first one that appears in our list. So when you click on the first link, you will get an amazing documentation by Conda detailing how you can install the tools that you need. Now, this depends on the machine or system you're using, and you can scroll down and find all the possible machines that Conda supports. For example, you can find a link to install Conda in Windows, Mac OS, and even when you're using the Linux system. Now, just as an example of installing Conda in Windows, you simply need to click on this link written in Windows, and it will take you to a page that allows you to download the installation tool. As you can see in this page, there is Mini Conda installer for Windows and a Conda distribution installer for Windows, as well as the Mini Forge installer for Windows. The only difference between Mini Conda and Anaconda is that Mini Conda is just a lighter version of Anaconda. So you simply need to click on the distribution that you find fit for the space you have for your Windows machine. For example, if you click on the link to install Mini Conda, it will take you to this page. You will see a download button here that you simply need to click, and then it takes you to a different page. You can type in your email here. And if you want to receive any communications from Conda, just let them know, and then you click on submit. This will allow you to download the .exe file. And if we return back to the installation instructions page, you can see that you will need to click on the .exe file, and that will simply install Mini Conda for your system. It's as easy as that. Now, you can pause this video, install Mini Conda or Anaconda, whatever you wish for your system, and then come back and continue with the lectures. So given that that has been installed, let us proceed to see how we can create a Conda environment and then install other tools that we will need. So just some caution here, I will be using Visual Studio Code as my code editor because it perfectly works well for me. But if you feel comfortable with any other code editor, please go ahead and use it. So given that I have Conda installed in my system, I will proceed to show you how Conda works and how we can use it to install bioinformatics tools. Now, as you can see from my terminal, I am working from my base environment. When doing bioinformatics analysis, it is not always advisable to work with your base environment because that is where you install every other basic tool you need for your day-to-day bioinformatics analysis. And starting right from here, we will create a new environment and install all tools that we will need for our downstream analysis. So creating a Conda environment is pretty much simple and straightforward. All you need to do is to simply type Conda create-n and then give it the name of your environment. We can name this environment Snakemake, but since I have an environment already called Snakemake, I will simply use a shorter version of it, for example, Snake. So Conda will ask you if you want this environment to stay within your current path. You simply need to click on yes. And then that is it. It's as simple as that. To activate this environment, you simply type in Conda activate and then give it your environment name, Snake. And that is it. We can Clear this to have a cleaner terminal. So be sure to activate your Conda environment before installing any bioinformatics tool. Now, with our environment created and activated, we can install nearly any tool that can be installed using the Conda distribution. To make this easier, I already provided a list of tools that we will need for our bioinformatics analysis. You can simply copy and paste any of these links to your terminal to install all of these tools. So I urge you to do this step by step, install one tool at a time and make sure that they are correctly installed. As an example, I will copy and paste this command here in my terminal and then click on enter. So Conda will ask me whether it needs to install the additional dependencies that this tool needs. I just click on yes. And then just like that, our tool has been installed. I can simply use it whenever I want. So do this for all the tools that we will have, and then you will have a successful run throughout your analysis. Now, before we continue, make sure you install Snakemake within your environment. And I will encourage that Snakemake be the first thing you install before proceeding with other tools. I have included a command here to allow you to create an environment called Snakemake and actually install Snakemake within that current environment. If you run into any problems installing Snakemake, the best idea is to go to the Snakemake documentation page and see the installation instructions depending on your operating system. If you head over to your preferred browser and just type in Snakemake, you will see its documentation as perhaps the first link. And if you go to the installation instructions, they have tons of instruction of how to install Snakemake using Conda or another installation distribution system called Mamba. Now, if you're wondering where this documentation is, I have included this documentation in our GitHub page. If you head over back to our GitHub page, you will find this toolinstallation.sh and all the commands that you will require for all the tools we will need for our analysis. And remember that if you encounter any problems with any of those tools, you simply need to go to the GitHub repos of those tools and post your issue there. It is most likely that you will see other people with a similar problem and possibly see how they were solved. Otherwise, see you in the next video where we will start writing the scripts and actually doing the analysis.